Yeah, let's do like a prom. Okay, and on the stage, we have Václav from Logos. Yes. We have Mario Havel from Ethereum Foundation. We have Meinhard from Freedom Browser. We have Attila, open source engineer. And last but definitely not least, we have Viktor Tron from Swarm Foundation. All right, it's a lot of us, and I know a lot of you are very opinionated people too, so I decided to play a little game. I'm gonna give you like a red card, which is an orange card, and this card gives you 2 rules, okay? Very simple. If you raise this card, that means you can steal a microphone and disagree with someone without me interrupting. So basically, you can politely say and call it that whatever the other person is saying is bullshit, and you want to defend that, okay? So if you raise this card, you immediately have the right. The other person needs to shut up, and then you can say and disagree with that person, okay? That's rule number 1. And then the other rule is that you can skip the question entirely. But you can only use this card once, okay? So I give each other. So remember, you can either you can either steal this and defend and say that this is bullshit, or you can skip the question. If you raise this card, you can only use it once.
What's the question?
The question is not there yet. That's the point. We'll see. You can use it throughout the 50 minutes that we're going to have a conversation.
What if I don't like rules?
Whoa.
Well, you can use your veto cards to debate on that, but let's see, let's see where this talk takes. So instead of me introducing you guys, I would love if we started this panel by each of you going and giving me one sentence and pretending that the audience is a 5-year-old, and you explain what you're working on, okay? So the audience is 5-year-olds, and you need to explain what you're working on in a maximum 2 sentences. Attila, do you want to take it over?
Yes, sure. So I'm in crypto since 2018. I worked on many projects. I'm worked on decentralized social apps and decentralized storage, and now I'm working decentralized identity projects, and I also want to work on light clients.
I don't know if a 5-year-old would pass that, but okay. Let's let's go in it smoothly. Meinhard.
So I'm Meinhard, and I make the world better by allowing people to speak freely, whatever they want to say, and building the software for that.
I like that. I think a 5-year-old would understand it. Mario.
Yeah, it's easy for me because I do kindergartens, but for adults, where they learn stuff about technologies and also train in philosophy and values, I guess. So helping people to become better themselves and learn and create a better world using technologies and cool stuff. Yeah.
I like that. Václav?
What do? I break and explain stuff that the smarter people build based on the vision of more smarter people.
Wow, you're in a pyramid scheme, no?
I am at the bottom of it, yeah.
All right, Viktor.
I would like to steal the motto of the uncloud people and say that I work on decentralizing the internet. Yes, the whole thing.
Okay. All right, so, and I'm Migle, and I translate the complex things that the adults say to 5-year-olds. That's what I do. All right. In your tech stack, because some of you are building, some of you are curating, what do you think is the biggest trade-off in terms of decentralization that you have to do in order for users to be able to interact and use your product? So, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. I love privacy, but I'm not a privacy maxi because I still have certain tools and technologies that I use that are not fully there, but it's obviously for my convenience too. What is something that you are building and you had to make a decision, shit, this is not going to be fully decentralized, but then people will be able to come and interact and build on top of it? What is that something in your tech stack or even in your projects that you're consulting or working with that you had to have the trade-off? Meinhard.
Very easy. So for us, it's the ENS resolution. So having an ETH domain, vitalik.eth, and then getting a an address on the decentralized network for that. We have to trust RPC endpoints for that. We went a step further and we are comparing what different parties are telling us, and if they reach some sort of consensus, then we kind of show the website. If not, we warn, so we try to at least mitigate a little bit. But yeah, ENS resolution is definitely the one bottleneck where we are not decentralized. And other than that, really all of it, which is pretty cool. So we have the file storage, we have now also like a messaging protocol built in, and yeah, even the download to some extent is decentralized. That's another bottleneck. To get into the decentralized system, you have to go through a centralized web server to download freedom, and then you are in the free world, but before that you are potentially in the locked world.
Václav.
So this particular thing is why Logos is in the state it is, like from the technical perspective, and why everything takes so long is that we don't like these compromises. And so it's very hard to do things properly and get them working in time for people to actually play around there. But there's progress. I think the biggest centralization point in our whole Logos ecosystem right now is everything is stored on GitHub and all the communication goes through Discord, right? So we push these narratives of privacy and decentralization, but then we resort back to these centralized solutions for the whole management of stuff. It's gonna evolve as well, but that's, I think, right now the biggest point. Like in the technical stack of Logos itself, I think we don't really do many of these compromises, if at all.
So I'm asking this question because I think we do have an elephant in the room in our industry overall, that we tend to say decentralization that, and we are the next revolution in decentralization other. The point is that almost every tech stack has centralization point, and that's absolutely fine, as long as we talk about it and we help each other out how to figure it out, maybe to, someone has figured out the A and someone has figured out the B, and we need more of these honest conversations. Hey, my B is still very centralized, could you help me out with it? And that's why I wanted to have a very diverse folks on the stage as well. What about you, Mario?
Yeah, so I work on Ethereum, so that's the whole thing, I guess. It's not really private, and we do, over the years, many decisions where we need to prioritize mostly with scalability, which we always try to find how far we can push the decentralization or the scalability without hurting the actual decentralization, find the lowest common denominator, and when we are pushing more data to the network, it's a bit with optimizations in mind. But at some point, there are some trade-offs that maybe I wouldn't be so happy about, but they make sense. Specifically in the Ethereum protocol, it's building blocks versus verifying them, right? We are making it more scalable, but at the same time, and the verifying stays easy, but for the building it becomes harder. So there are some of these trade-offs that make sense, but sometimes hurt me, I guess. And also what Václav said is a great example, just the interaction with the community and the coordination mechanism that we didn't build from scratch, or we didn't adopt a decentralized one, so we are using Discords and Twitters and these centralized platforms to get a word out, and I think that's less than ideal. And what I was hoping for, that we have our own hackerspace or bordel, and I'm idealistic that I'll try to push the freedom and decentralization as much as possible, so only use the free platforms. But there we also see that if we want to inform people, we also have to go back to Twitter in the end. Yep. Although our core technology stays as open as we can, but yeah, the freaking social media with shit ton of proxies, it will still be hard to use, yeah.
Yep, totally agree. You can't run away from crypto Twitter as much as you want. Viktor.
Trade-offs. I mean, Václav mentioned also that kind of what he's building in terms of that he doesn't compromise, and it's true for Swarm as well. But I kind of answer the question two ways. If you want to kind of include in our stack all the stuff that you use for development and kind of to organize the team, and of course we're also very centralized in a sense, and actually kind of a little bit ashamed of that, to be honest. Like that we use GitHub, that we use Microsoft GitHub, we use Discord, we use Telegram.
We actually use Mattermost, which is a good alternative of an open source tool, right? Mattermost is a good alternative. At least that, yes, and so is the self-hosting. And we also use the Telegram channel, and I'm not so proud of this. But yes, the other way I could answer this is let's consider the apps that I would
I would like to see on Swarm, in general, like the kinds of interactive real-time applications. And that kind of scenario, the most bottleneck comes from actually the underlying computation, which would normally be done on server. So that everything that's done on the server side, we should kind of cater for doing serverlessly. Yeah. And of course, most of the business logic you can do on Ethereum itself and other tools. But ultimately, maybe, I don't know, like calculating the distance, for example, in LinkedIn kind of graph, these kind of server tasks are very difficult to handle, and I don't even have a concept of how we do this. So it's kind of, the real world computer is a bit far away in this sense. I can only imagine this to be done on actual servers, and maybe provably done on a server, and somehow prove it with the prover instead of.
Attila, what about yourself? What's a big trade-off?
Yeah, so a lot of things were mentioned already, but there is one more thing that I haven't heard, is that like we all have mobile phones, and the mobile platforms can be quite limited. Yeah. So like they try to keep their users in these walled gardens, and they are very convenient if you like their walled gardens, but if you don't, then you have very little choice. And there is like a choice for like using free operating systems and free like on mobile and on desktop as well. But there are like forces pushing towards like closing you in, and like convenience is a strong force to push you in these walled gardens, and it causes often a lot of trouble. If you want to make something popular, then you have to obviously not only use these platforms, but like also like buy into them, so that even if you to be able to develop on these platforms and distribute your work to a lot of people.
Okay, so now since we humanized the people that are building decentralized infrastructure, but even they have to have certain trade-offs, I want to take a little bit further and ask you guys, especially let's stay within the Ethereum ecosystem, what do we as a community collectively on the outside world have decided that it's really cool and really good, but in those private conversations we all agree that it's kind of really bullshit. It doesn't maybe really work, it doesn't have the future about it. What is that something? Mario, I want to give this first to you.
Oh man, so many things.
I mean, you have the card, but...
Where to start? I mean, back to Twitter again, like, I don't know, like, everyone hates it, I think, and we still keep using it. And, like, talking about decentralization, we don't have an alternative decentralized platform.
But what's something more from the Ethereum itself stack?
It's just like the crypto Twitter just came back to me. But, like, the whole Ethereum stack, I don't know. So the whole workflow, right? I mean, like the wallet and the seed, I love it as a cypherpunk. You have seed, it's simple for most of the people. It's hard to remember, to write down the words, turns out. Hard to make it sustainable. The wallet connected to a centralized RPC, that's just automatic. I don't want that, just give me a light client, give me my own node. That's another thing, running your own node. I love it, I support it. Hard to force it on people. Then you want to interact with the chain. You go through the MEV searcher. Well, they also scammed you. Then you go through, what do you have there? Chain, you have the different DeFi platforms. They also spy on you in the front ends. Take fee or whatever, but I'm missing some part. Oh, the wallet connect, yeah, that's the worst one. So then like you need to connect your phone over centralized server to your browser, which is right in front of you, right? So like the whole user experience, like we built it around the compromises of the system, and I think there's many good decisions and many of them that works for people like us. But yeah, it hides so many ugly things that like we talk about in the private, and I would like to get rid of them. Yeah.
See, it feels good to let it all out in the public space as well. Václav.
We've been talking a lot about browsers at Logos, and that's why one of the reasons like why we don't really support browser anymore. Like if you're going to build on top of Logos, you will not build in a browser a web app, right? And so the reason for that is many, like I think Mario has laid it out all really
Right.
nicely. We also have a great post from Corey Perry on press.logos.co about your browser has already betrayed you. And so I think we all kind of love how easy it is to just deploy a new web app with connection to your blockchain of choice, and everybody starts interacting with it. But then all the layers of where you get traced and surveilled and censored and leak information is insane. So I think we all understand that somewhere deep, but we all ignore it in the whole Ethereum ecosystem. And it goes really well with what Mario said.
I love that. Meinhard, since browsers were mentioned, and you're
I was
building a
about
browser.
to use this one here, obviously. So there's hope out there, I would say. So freedom is that hope, especially in the browser space. From that simple realization that you have this heavily guarded ecosystem, which is a browser controlled by big corporations, in the most ways. And yeah, we work on solving that we directly connect to the peers, and there's no gateway. We have no interest in spying. We want to supply good software. So my mental model is often VLC, the video player. They don't know how many users they have. They have billions, and they don't care. They just kind of ship a good product that's very lean and does a good job and serves people well. So that's a big inspiration also for running this thing. And yeah, I agree with the browser space. Obviously, we don't even have a market share yet, but we are just starting. But we're trying to solve that. But yeah, in terms of things that look cool on the outside, but actually on the inside are not cool. Just the public addresses of everyone. Let's say an Ethereum address, for example. You can see their whole history. There's nothing about privacy there. And I mean, this is by design, but also it makes me feel unfree sometimes. So if I want to make a transaction that I don't want to see linked to my, my other activities, or my personal holdings, whatever I have, I somehow always fear of disclosing it somehow accidentally, and that's a fear I don't really want to have. So I understand of course the reasoning behind it, the transparency, but also the freedom of kind of disclosing by choice. I'm missing in that model, which is very. There's of course ways to mitigate that, and there's chains and protocols with zero knowledge that solve this. But the normal case is that we use these addresses that everybody can see which DeFi projects I'm invested in and who has sent money when. So that's for me a bit of an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about Viktor's answer. Are you using your card?
No, I
to
just want
answer?
to ask if I can react with one sentence.
Sure.
For the browser, the browser itself may be fine, but then the browser loads some JavaScript and stuff, and then you have no clue what is being loaded, right? And so that's part of the problem.
If I may just reply.
Sure,
So
go.
we will have this feature that says block centralized elements. So like an ad blocker, like a centralized element blocker. But yeah, the browser can be used to spy, and we want to try, of course, to mitigate that as much as possible as well.
Viktor. So Viktor has been since DevCon 0, DevCon 1 days. So you have seen Ethereum go through many different variations and integrations and ups and downs. What would you call it out is still BS?
Very good question, thank you. So I would give two examples and maybe some plugs to solve it. But one is that it's kind of, we already mentioned the RPCs and the Infurers and Alchemists. Every single wallet used that. How this was never meant to happen. This was never meant to be like this. Like it's not even like client security. Yeah. So what I would say that I heard about Helios recently, and Helios can serve as the proxy that would enrich your RPCs with at least with the proof. So that's at least some mitigation for you. The other one is a very interesting one, which no one ever mentioned. It's not a centralization issue, but a kind of the bind signatures, or it's not the bind signatures, but blind signing something. So basically, when you do even a token-related transaction, you often don't know who you're sending what to. And actually, this already had some sort of solution originally, which was a kind of this NetSpec. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
And so NetSpec was actually a smart commenting system, which should assign a kind of a genuine kind of natural language interpretation of what a transaction does, and it's kind of in the code, and the code would translate into not just the EVM opcode thing, but the actual compiler would also output some of these compiled elements. And the idea was that you put it on Swarm or some sort of integrity protected way to consult that, and whenever you and that would be also reflected these kind of hashes, that the content address hashes of these files would be also part of the code, the contract code, that is. And when the contract would be evoked, then you could actually check the source or this kind of outputs on Swarm. You could check that actually you could always verify that it will be the particular compiler version's actual output. So and that way you could really verify that the contract would do exactly at least what the author said it would do. So it's like at least in that sense it would be secure. And also here I would go for a plug. So in the audience is Donny, who's actually just presenting another solution to this. It's kind of it's in a different vein, but it solves the same problem of trying to have a new standard of how to put in solutions to this. Basically, how to put some constraints on your contract interaction.
I think to complement your answer, I will answer the question I asked not from a tech stack, but more from cultural perspective. And I think even within Ethereum ecosystem, too many projects see each other as competitors. And we're like so incredibly still early. I know we keep on saying that, but we don't really act on it. I think a lot of us still see each other as these competing entities, and we're not really even there with the technology to call each other competitors. So we should be sharing more and even digging out, like the project you mentioned, digging out from the past, maybe that was abandoned because it didn't have a good business model, but maybe we have a bit more matured. Oh, yeah?
So I agree that this is the case, but I would argue that maybe this is not such a bad thing, because the other way to do this would be to create some kind of global alignment so that everyone works the same way, and then there is some kind of top-down idea that everyone agrees or get alignment on, and then execute that. And that's very hard to achieve on a global scale. And there are examples how to do this, but often that leads to centralization. And then the real decentralized spirit is that, we do whatever we do, and then, it's it might be competing with your project, and maybe we can find a way to collaborate, but often, to be honest, a lot of people working in this industry are introverts or have some things being, hyperactive and other
you're either the ADHD maxi or you're really the introvert maxi, and it's rare to meet someone in the middle as well.
Yeah, so, and then if you put these people into a room, then they might get an agreement, but then when they home, they just start doing whatever they feel like. And a lot of innovation comes from this. You can argue with how that can be monetized and productized and whatever. But I feel that this gives a lot of space to experimentation and new ideas to blossom.
Yeah.
And I like this. Maybe I'm alone in this option, but I don't see this as a huge problem.
No, I like to be challenged. Thank you. Mario, you had something to say?
I was thinking about raising the card, but I'm not sure if I agree or disagree. I don't want to strongly disagree, but we do this on the core Ethereum. In Ethereum itself, in the clients, this is what we do. What you described, we collaborate instead of compete. We have 12 different implementations of all the different constants and execution clients, and these people need to come together to agree on the specification of Ethereum, on the next hard fork, and then develop it together to make sure that it all works exactly as it is. Otherwise, we would lose all the network and all the money on it, right? So it's extremely critical work, and it's 20 different teams that come together and collaborate, actually. it's not easy. It's this rough consensus where it's just messy sometimes and wastes a lot of work. So it's far from ideal. If you ever came to like ACD calls, you saw it can be messy, but it works. And I think that like there are some of these things that we can achieve with the consensus. But on the other hand, on many new technologies built on Ethereum or in crypto implementations, we don't really know what is the best way to do it. And instead of achieving the consensus, well, we compete in a way that like we try different ideas, right? We don't put all your eggs in the same basket. We try to do different implementation or different approach to things, and like they evolve to the best one should succeed ideally, right? So I understand certain competition maybe on the application level, but on the core, that's where we still need to agree. And maybe from the cultural perspective, this is overreaching in our values. Like if we align, if we agree on certain principles, certain values that we are here all for freedom, then we can, even collaborate when we build somewhat competing tools or with different approach. And building also like on the level between crypto. Like for example, I know I have a bunch of friends from Bitcoin, and like they are idiots in the community that are loud and really hateful. But if you talk to the technical people, we have the same goals. We want to achieve some cool, empowering technology, and then you suddenly have the same language, and you can create ideas together. So it works.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we chose to be at ETH Prague and not at Consensus event for probably obvious reasons as well in terms of culture and ideology. I wanted to also turn the microphone to the audience if anyone wants to or has a strong opinion. What is something that we kind of agree as a community that it's okay, but in reality it really is not? If anyone has an opinion. I'm sure you have an opinion. Oh, nice. Here you go.
I think that there's this recurring statement that we have solved account abstraction, but we haven't. So
I was gonna say that. Like it was one of my first thought when you asked the question. Like account abstraction. That's like that's a big one.
Okay.
do I need to expand on that?
Yeah, a little bit, please.
Yeah, so basically we have all these tokenized assets, but you still need to pass around Ether in order to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to just do tokens so that people don't have to care about the ETH balance. And you can't give somebody tokens so that they can immediately spend them without giving them also some Ether. And the whole thing has incredible friction. Like it's completely useless for the average person, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that out loud. I mean, and this comes from a very technical person, so thank you. Indeed, I really wanted to approach this panel as like a collective therapy, as a community to let it all out and give a floor. And ETH Prague is really that space where, I know this is being recorded and it will be public, but this is just to be very honest. And the next question I have is, if decentralization tech stack was like 15 years more mature than it is today, what is like the first thing that you would run and change it in your tech stack? If, let's pretend that the tech stack is more mature by like 15, 20 years, today, what would be the first thing that you would tackle with that maturity within the tech stack? So what do you see as a big issue? And if we are 20 years further, you can solve that today. What is that first thing you're running to solve?
So first thing is, for me, would be privacy, like the reason that you mentioned, that if we want to use this to be like used as everyday cash instead of like fiat currency, then like you don't want all your transactions to be public. And that's as easy as it is. This has to be solved. And I have other ideas, but I would pass on the mic.
Václav?
I think I would want a truly decentralized private messenger or a communication platform that actually works
That
reliably,
actually works is a big one.
and that actually does not have any friction for users other than what normal platforms would have, but would give them all the protection from the big players, including like EU and banning VPNs, which is a new thing for us here, and chat control and all these things.
And do you think it's indeed the matter of decentralized tech stack in terms of the maturity that we don't have this tool? Because I know many different projects attempted and tried to build this. What do you think is still that big blocker?
I think it is a combination of user experience. Like, so if you take status, for example, status messenger, it kind of works, but not in all cases. There are edge cases that are kind of rough. It is almost really reliable, but there's always like this 5% that kind of breaks it for an ordinary person, right?
Yeah.
And so the balance between what needs to be there and the balance what the people expect and the chicken egg problem of like, if I use a new communication app and nobody's there, it's hard. So I think it's a combination of the technical stack needs to be more mature and have all these features that we are still missing there for it to have a good user experience to attract users. And we are still like in that like we're catching up so that we can do the user experience.
Mario.
Yeah, I was just counting. I have 13 different messaging apps in my phone, just to follow up on Václav.
That's pretty insane.
So
So,
let's
like
get one
this-
more now.
Yeah, it's the 14 that solves the standard. Yeah, of course. So yeah,
Solves.
So I was just giving account to that just out of curiosity because like this just how we are spread across these different channels, like that's something that's hard to solve. I'm not sure if a perfect stack can solve it. It's maybe more of this like the social level.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to touch on, and it was like the first thought, you already said privacy, it was my first thought. Like I think the current frontier is like the private computation, right? Like we solved privacy for payments, we solved we've solved computation like DeFi, like smart contracts, but now to merge them and have like fully private on-chain computation with any DeFi and so on. But I realized that still only one side of the problem, because then the biggest problem, that would be my answer, is then permissionless onboarding. And again, another issue that we ignore in crypto, that like 99% of people on board using KYC, using Coinbase and all these kind of shit. So again, like giving away all their data at the same time, creating attack vectors and just like they are asking somebody to sell them crypto, which is ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So having like peer-to-peer, not just in communication or the blockchain itself, but between the people to be able to freely trade and onboard people, be able to pay easily for services directly in crypto. I don't know whether it's, again, tech problem or I guess it's combined there, but this onboarding, offboarding as well.
Viktor.
I mean, just the original idea of Ethereum, the kind of hashing algorithm at least, as opposed to Bitcoin when it was still proof of work, Ethereum, was that any kind of general computation device could actually do the hashing, and it wouldn't require any kind of thing, but it would, if force it to be the general computation device, it would have to have memory hard, yeah? So that was the idea. And in this kind of same vein, what I was missing is some kind of crypto onboarding, and I would really like to see this kind of thing realized, maybe with Swarm or maybe not, like how basically you can have zero cash entry to the system. Basically, you can store and forward message your way into crypto. Yeah, you just earn a bit of crypto through that.
Amir gets a red card immediately. Do you want to finish? No. You.
Hi.
You now quiet. I will give you the floor in a second. All good. We have the mics. This is yours. All good. 1 second, I'll come back to you.
I'm kind of finished, really. I just,
Yeah.
So basically, crypto on ramping, like a zero cash entry, and earn your way into it would be very nice, like to.
All right. We have also Amir on stage. Amir, I'll ask you to introduce yourself, but pretending that the audience is a 5-year-old, and say what you're building to a 5-year-old.
I'm like a co-founder of Bitcoin. I was one of the first 5 devs.
But this is 5-year-olds. Maybe they don't know what Bitcoin is. Remember that.
And I like pioneered a lot of the privacy tech. And now I'm working on a project to fuck the government.
Hey, 5-year-olds will understand that.
So I haven't worked out my elevator pitch. But
To 5-year-olds.
yeah, Agorist technology, P2P tech, anonymous smart contracts. We can do everything. And people go, you know, what about this and that project? But, you know, this and that project is funded by, you know, certain VCs. So I'm not going to say more, but anyway.
I will give you one more question that we asked. You keep in mind.
Keep it, man.
Amir, I'll ask you one question that you missed from the team. We were discussing.
There's a subtext here, but I wasn't going to go into it.
So, Amir, the question we were just discussing with the folks as well, what is something as a community, specifically within Ethereum, that we agree and we kind of say, oh, we solved it, or oh, it's kind of works, but in real reality, it's bullshit, it doesn't really work, we haven't solved it, we're just kind of pretending that it does. What is that thing for you? We were very brutally honest, by the way, all of us, so you can be honest here too. This is a safe space.
Buying research chemicals on the internet, I was very hopeful back in the day we would solve that problem. So.
What about the tech stack?
I mean, I think it's quite easy. There's not enough willpower. I think it's all just a question of willpower, where we put our energy and effort. I mean, everyone pussied out essentially. They're all weak. That's what I think.
Mario.
No, I just wanted to show him to put the mic up because I can't hear
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's political will. I think there's a lot of liquidity out there that we can tap into, and we haven't had the courage to do it. So, and as I said, VCs, if people are playing that game, the problem is the VCs are going to put constraints on how you build your organization, and people are going to build these companies, and they're going to have to be compliant, etc. The whole point of P2P was to make DAOs, was to be resilient against attack, so that you could go and do the cool stuff and, you know, actually transform things, have impact.
I'll translate. So what Amir means by attack is actually to governments like putting all kinds of constrictions on the companies. Is that correct? Is that what you thought by attack? It has to be resilient against these attacks.
I just think that there is a thing when you're doing a political struggle where, you know, everybody wants to have their slice of the cake. You know, they're like, oh, I want to have a liberal, humanist, secular vision of the future. And the thing is that as long as you are playing by their rules or the framework that is set, you're going to fall into the same trap. You're not going to be able to escape out of that. And in terms of technology, we've fallen into the same spiritual trap of the proprietary industry that we were claiming to be fighting against, but we adopted without question their assumptions, their morality, their methodologies, their ideas. We use that as a basis for how we think about accruing users, accruing liquidity. We didn't really question those assumptions, and somewhere along the way we lost our source of spiritual power, our strength, and, you know, there were very ambitious claims being made, but those claims have not been fulfilled. And so that's where the kind of soul searching comes from. But people they fail to go to the deeper level, and they always kind of look at things in terms of like, oh, what's the magic technique that I'm missing? What's the magic app, or so on? And
So do you think it's more of a cultural and ideological issue, or do you think
I mean,
it's a tech stack?
I don't understand why, if I was Ethereum, I would literally just buy a massive building in one, instead of doing all these conferences all the time. There's way too many conferences. Why not like get a building and build a force of people, of hackers, train them up, and go and build these things, you know? I mean, that's just like an example, but that's what I mean by like a lack of focus or strategy or like willpower towards a goal. Ethereum's been LARPing for so many years. I remember going to like these events, and there'd be all these like magical flowcharts, and it was like, I'm not clear like what they're trying to actually do, what they're trying to achieve. So it's just been stuck in that limbo for ages. But yeah, anyway, it is an interesting time in the crypto market in general. I feel like there was a big mistake that was made where there were all these projects that were making infrastructure or technology plays, and that was working so long as the token appreciated, and you could cycle the profits from the token back into development of that, tech or infra. But what we've seen in this cycle is that actually the projects that do well, Pump Fund, Hyperliquid, Polymarket, are ones that have a strong product market fit. So when we're thinking about, our ideologies and putting it into practice, etc., we have to really think pragmatically what are the products that we need to build and how we're going to build those and where the liquidity is going to come from, etc. Very important questions. But the problem, I see a big disconnect from, people who are like, la ideas.
Yeah.
And
I think that leads me to my next question that I had. I was glad to see that at ETH Prague, I saw quite a lot of students, like really young people coming in, and we really truly have a new generation of like youngsters coming into our industry, right? I mean, the fact that we now have people that are like hacking and they were born after Bitcoin came out or even after like Ethereum white paper came out, like that's now a reality. We have people that met in blockchain industry, married, have kids, like this is where we're heading now, right? And I thought to ask you guys, from the tech stack, what do you hope that we could offer to these guys and forget and leave something in the past for this new generation of developers and people trying to build the culture? What's one thing that we should leave in the last decades, and what's one thing that we should really help them out and say maybe focus on this for the upcoming next decades of Ethereum ecosystem and decentralization stack overall? Václav, go.
I would love them if they could leave behind cloud.
Yes, and
Just
cloud,
that,
guys.
because it pushes you to think differently about how do you communicate with others. You know that because of what you're building. How do you store your data? How do you access it? What are all the caveats that you have to go around? I was in Bangkok at DEF CON. I had a conversation with someone who came up with an idea for a talk, which would be called "Your D is Too Small," and it would be about decentralized application not being decentralized. And so that would be my message to anyone starting to build.
Sorry, this is the ADHD side of the crypto people.
Anyone who's starting to build, just ignore that there is cloud and figure out other ways of having your application communicating with other people.
Super nice. Meinhard.
Yeah, very much linked to that. Centralized social media or centralized, algorithms that are just purely mining attention and kind of turning out the most, not evil, but the kind of most instinctual behavior in people, especially young people. That would be a great one if we could just serve it the natural need of social communication, but not anything else. No mining, no money, kind of incentives. That would be great. Yeah.
Viktor, what would you give the new generation?
Well, I just really hope that they can learn from mistakes. So just because we left this kind of,
A little bit of a mess?
unverified RPC in our footsteps, just because of that, they will still believe that decentralization is kind of worth it, and it has a lot to give to humanity. Absolutely. Yeah, and I would also join that, like social media in general, like, and the media and like, news or
Don't get the new generation on crypto Twitter, basically.
Or get them on crypto Twitter, but make the crypto Twitter somehow different.
Okay.
Or
Adding filters on.
Yeah.
Attila?
Yeah, to add to this, like, I feel that also it would be good if we could somehow, like, transmit that message or transmit that feeling that, like, we had when we first joined
Early
to this
days,
to this, because, like, there was a lot of, like, it was hugely inspiring. Like, you met, like, I made thousands of friends, like, in this community, and then I feel also that, like, in the sense, like, how we, like, as humans deal with each other, I think it's exemplary, and I would like to, like, have kids to be able to experience this kind of community and this kind of community values. And it's not that much software, but like, yeah, I agree with everything that was.
Just a quick comment on that, like the real world. I remember going on like Bitcoin safaris around the world and find places where people would accept Bitcoin. That element of crypto in the real world has kind of disappeared. It has really withdrawn to the cloud or to the internet. But like encountering places that use it in their POS systems or whatever to exchange in their communities doesn't really exist anymore. I would like to bring that definitely back because that connects people. That connected me to many people all over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
I will add before giving over to Amir. For the new generations, I would like us to not overcomplicate explaining certain things. Yes, developers that are building specific tech stack, they need to know from A to Z, but I can guarantee you many of you here have a credit card and you could not explain from A to Z how exactly credit card works. Then why do we keep on concentrating on over-explaining over and over how exactly each project is made? We don't really need to know that. Bring me something that I can use and it will have a value to me. So I would really love if we brought that inspiration for the new crypto generation. Oh, sorry, ignored. Yes.
You get in the car twice.
I couldn't disagree more. I think like scrutiny and like checking on things is very, very important. I mean, just imagine in the world like people who understand cryptography and know programming. So basically 1,000 people, including like Daniel Bernstein, like to maybe Arthur, maybe Amir, kind of some of these people, but it doesn't amount to much more than 1,000 really, or 10,000 max. Yeah, I mean, how do you want if you want to rely on these technologies? I mean, and you're not even communicating it like properly. Then you want to kind of simplify it always as like 5-year-olds. It's not possible. Like you just have to. Yeah, I mean. I'm not saying that there's no proper place for that kind of communication. Yeah. I'm just saying that, okay, so maybe my Twitter post like won't have all the detail of my actual journal paper, but I think it's very important to kind of to appreciate this kind of level of depth and that we must communicate our solutions in great detail so that others can check on them. It's like very important.
I have a comment or theory that I have that evolved for me through my being in the tech space, and that's as long as we talk about how things work, they are not mature enough to get real adoption.
Ooh, I like
and
that.
as we get to the point where they are mature and they just work, we stop talking about how and why they work that way, and we just tell people why they should use it. But we are not there with blockchains and peer-to-peer networks. We are still building to the point of them being mature enough so that they can just be used. And so until then, we will keep explaining because that's our way to communicate.
That's a really cool take. I agree. So hopefully the next generation will have that beauty that we did the hard work and now they can just do the cool products that works. Amir, what would you like to give the next generation of the crypto folks?
You said what we should leave behind.
Also leave behind, and then what should we give? Exactly.
Yeah. I think we need to build a strong culture of authenticity and around open source, free software, Linux, P2P, these technologies, having people use them, etc. I think the technology paradigm we live in today is like, it's the wrong paradigm. It's broken deeply. The software is not actually made to make people more effective or to like build community or to make people wealthy. It's actually, if you look at social media, they use all these dark patterns to suck you in, to waste more time. It's not actually built so you can efficiently find the info, collaborate with people. They're like deliberately, there's like predatory tactics that are being used against people. How do you create something different? Obviously, you're not going to learn something from that. I saw a statistic and it said Gen Z does not know what a file system is. Gen Z do not know how to use a printer. And you go, okay, like, maybe that's a consequence of the technology is being dumbed down to accrue mass users, to onboard lots of normie cattle, because that's how they view people. But it actually is not only the technology is being built, for the mass adoption, but it's actually making people stupid. It's making people disempowered. So I don't know why we think that's a winning strategy for us to like build a community that has vibrancy, that is intellectually rich, is able to like create things, that is able to have social impact. It's the opposite. In fact, everybody today is driving a grey car, and that's simply because when you are creating a product for the average, it will literally just be a spiral to the bottom, to just the most bland, most basic thing. And I was actually thinking about this because the software in the 90s that used to be built with a different mindset. Like it used to be everything was completely moddable, had plugins, had skins, you could change everything. I realized because we were creating stickers and creating merchandise, and we didn't want to do just like something bland and generic. We actually wanted to have like distinct style. And I would ask everyone, I'd be like, which one do you prefer? Or which sticker you prefer? And I realized that everybody has a different taste. So if you want to create something unique and creative, it needs to be customizable. You need to like empower users in the community to be able to, to be able to like mod that thing. And, that's why the software today, it's like not exciting anymore. And, but yeah, in terms of like what we can give them, so I think there should be a kind of maybe esoteric order, where people like, because I asked Stallman to knight me, and he was like, that's a really serious thing. I really have to think about that. He like took it seriously, because it's like to be a knight of Linux and free software. There's like a serious vow there to be made. Maybe we should like have a bit of that in cryptocurrency. Not like, oh yeah, everyone just come. It's like a party. It's like, oh, you want to like level up. We're going to provide you the resources, but here's like the progression you have to go, and you will become a future leader, like a pipeline. Right now, we're not doing that. We're not thinking about building a movement. We're not thinking about a strategy or how we're going to go forward. It's just like, like spontaneous. Oh yeah, we have lots of conferences. People like hang out. They're talking about different things. But yeah, in terms of like what people get, what we should be leaving behind, I think is like exotic cryptography. Like cryptography is literally magic. We're literally using the rules of the universe to construct schemes and systems that are like casting spells and are like immune to attack by nation states. That's like some serious power. And now people are talking about like quantum cryptography, which is like literally using the like geometry of like atoms and nature to make computer systems. I mean, even a computer itself is pretty magical, but imagine like cryptography is actually using like immutable universal laws. That's crazy.
So we ran out of the time. I just want to give a floor for every single person to say one topic that you would invite audience to research independently to get a little bit close to a true decentralization. And if you could just say that one thing that you would want folks today and next week to go and Google it, what would that be? To get you closer to a true decentralized networks. What's that one thing you want the audience to go and research?
Manifesto for a Democratic Civilization by Abdullah Öcalan. I'll just go check that book out and the history of the PKK.
Nice. Václav.
I'm going to say peer-to-peer networks, because we talk about blockchains, but many people do not understand that there is a general peer-to-peer network under the hood and that there are other use cases for that.
Awesome. Attila.
Yeah, I would say light clients. I started researching into this recently. Like, I just wonder, like, why there is no like light client standard that we can just easily use after more than 10 years in Ethereum. And if you start digging into this, like, it's actually pretty fascinating. And like, if you ask different people, they give you different answers, and that's maybe a good indicator why this hasn't been done. But I suggest you to look into that, because then you realize all these problems that were mentioned, these RPC endpoints, and a lot of decentralization problems come from that.
Mario.
I would say Unix as modularity and a computational paradigm that we use and we've developed over the years, yeah.
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
good one. Viktor,
I would say incentives and continuity.
could you repeat that again?
Incentives and continuity. So in the continuity of self-sustaining property of some of these peer-to-peer networks, so obviously it's been in the peer-to-peer, I would say. That's the kind of general starting point. But within that, so it's very important, like how you incentivize. Do you really believe in having to have some sort of this kind of elephant in the room type of smelly thing of money there, and then like people often think of money as something like a dirty word, and like and I mean just really I would like people to challenge people to think about it a bit more and deeply, like what is material incentive, whether kind of the rational profit maximization is it really about such a bad concept of money, or is it something much more fundamental and something that you can reuse the continuity onto. It's a very interesting philosophical question if you think about it. Yeah.
All right, Meinhard.
Build a decentralized website. Just feel the power of just putting your hobby on a .eth domain and putting it on a decentralized website without ever using your credit card, signing up to GoDaddy or DNS provider, anything. Just everything, just with a bit of crypto, build a $10 crypto website, completely decentralized.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming and joining and being honest. Oh, okay, final one.
I know I'm youngest in this panel, and I didn't have a chance to answer the questions about getting youngsters to crypto. And I just want to say, like, kind of what Amir said, like the local spaces and local communities.
Yes.
Like, that's how I got when I was, And also, it was mentioned here, like the payments. When I was like 15, 16, I came to the local hackerspace, and they had like a mate for Bitcoin. It was, it cost me like $500 today, but it was like my first payment in Bitcoin, and that's how tangible it felt. That's how I got into the place. So yeah, support your local community.
Which I also support the Ethereum Foundation initiative to establish more physical hubs. So for example, we, with Swarm, we have a beautiful office in Budapest, and we just, let's call each other. We would love to open our doors to more people come and work with us as well. Thank you so much, guys, as well, for coming and hearing and listening and asking the questions. And now, don't leave the room, because Amir, you're next, right? Is your talk next?
You can leave the room.
All right, thank you, guys.